Welcome to the video. Alright, we're back in action, everyone. We are today going to be talking about Marvel Rivals. So I've seen my friends play it from afar. I've seen people play it on YouTube and stream it, and I've been interested because I was a big Overwatch fan a while ago, so I knew that I was going to try it out at the very least, and so finally I did. And I have some thoughts. I don't know about you, but if you're familiar with Marvel Rivals, if you're like me, when I play it or when I thought about it or saw it, I immediately think Overwatch. And it's almost impossible not to, at least in my case. I find myself comparing every match, every character, every moveset to someone in Overwatch. I want to showcase these graphics to start. They're just some screenshots I took of my Google searches when I was doing research for this, and it's very interesting. So I'll post right here. First Google search is going to be Overwatch. So I was typing in, like any Google search, I was just typing in, why is Overwatch? And then I was going to type something else, but you know, Google auto fills the search results. And with Overwatch, as you'll see, it said some very strange things, but none of them were unexpected. They're not even that strange. They're just more so disappointment. The fan base's disappointment in Overwatch is very evident in these. So you can see it says, why is Overwatch so laggy? Why is Overwatch so bad? And so forth. Why isn't it opening? Why is it hated? Why is it toxic? So this sums up the Overwatch player base pretty well. And not all of it's the player base's fault. Blizzard sucks. So it makes sense. They've had some awful support for this game. They dropped the PvE mode. There's a lot of reasons why people would feel so strongly about Overwatch, and they're justified. And then I went to look at Marvel Rivals, and the search results were as such. So you can see it says, why is Marvel Rivals so laggy? Why is Marvel Rivals crashing? Why is it so popular? Free? So it's at least more of a mixed bag. Why is Marvel Rivals so fun? There's at least some optimism and happiness when it comes to these search results. I just thought that was interesting because these are the sentiments I feel myself too. So the company that made Marvel Rivals was co-developed by NetEase and Marvel Games. I'd never really heard of Marvel Games. If someone told me Marvel Games, I would think any game with a Marvel character in it. You know, one thing I thought about when I knew that one of the development studios was Marvel Games, my mind immediately went to the old Spider-Man 1 game. And if you like that, it was on PS1, then you'll know that was a pretty fun game. Kind of had some weird fog lining the New York streets underneath you. You were sort of zip-zapping across rooftops as Spider-Man, and it had that Silent Hill fog that would immediately kill you if you fell down. So, you know, they were using their graphical limitations to be artistic, just like the Silent Hill creators, so they're doing what they could, but anyways, back to Marvel Games. They didn't develop that. They actually started out in 2009, and they released their first game in 2011 called Thor, Son of Asgard. So, Thor, Son of Asgard released for iOS, and the plot goes as such. Son of Asgard picks up in an alternate dimension. Basically, it's just Thor is on a quest to find Loki, and he needs to discover why his sister has betrayed Asgard and joined his enemies. So he fights all these random enemies and frost giants, Midgard, serpents, so forth. It was praised for its graphics, but criticized for its gameplay. It was sort of a beat-em-up single-player game. And I tried to look it up. All I found was an app, a sponsored one, so it's called Evergreen Home. I guess they get a free mention here, but had nothing to do with Marvel, basically. And so then their next game was Avengers Initiative. I'm not going to go through the whole gambit of all of their games, but I just think it's interesting to see where they came from, because I think a lot of people, when they hear this game and figure out it was made by NetEase, they're a little more familiar with them. But Marvel Games don't really know what's going on. So Avengers Initiative was also just sort of a strange mobile game. It was a standalone. It was on iOS and Google. And it just was the same type of game as Son of Asgard. Closed 2 years later. Not much to that. That's just sort of what they did up to that point. So after that, they didn't have many games solely developed by them. So they've basically just made a lot of cheesy games, some cash grabby ones, and so it was interesting that they collaborated with NetEase, another company developer who makes similar such games. So you'd think these two companies that have made similar games, phone games, cash grabby games, would come together. You'd be worried about what the product would be, right? Well, in terms of NetEase, they made Cyber Hunter, Life After. Never heard of either of those. Narak, Bladepoint I've heard of. Recent game, Ace Racer. And we've all heard of Diablo Immortal. So they were sort of the evil masterminds behind that game. And just a lot of cash cowing, money grab style monetization schemes. And they're just the type of games that make you feel ugly to play. And it is surprising because they, meaning NetEase, has ruined a franchise's reputation before, if not Blizzard already for Diablo is what I'm speaking about. But they made Diablo just a total joke of a franchise, of an IP, with Diablo Immortal. So it's interesting that they were trusted with this. I wanted to figure out what it is about these games that has captured the interest and how they've actually succeeded, in my opinion, this time, with what their goal was. And they haven't done anything too egregious yet. The game has captured my interest for the past 2 weeks, and I've played it a bit, so I have some thoughts to share. And I finally figured out what the answer was to that question of why is this different? What did NetEase do? Why doesn't this make me feel sleazy to play? Why don't I feel like I'm being totally ripped off, or they've always got one hand in my pocket searching for my wallet? And there was a developer interview that I found, and that developer interview offered some insight. It was really one answer to one question that really sold me on why this has worked out this time. So the answer that the developer gave to the interviewer was, he was basically saying, we were given free rein by Disney, Marvel, whoever the exact one was making that decision, to develop this game as we see fit, to designing the characters in the game by diving deep into the backgrounds and personalities of each Marvel character, so that every mechanic, every skill is crafted to reflect who the heroes really are in the comics. And that surprised me, because I don't know if you were tuned at all into the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora saga, but I know that that's not directly Disney, that's more James Cameron. But they were very particular with what exactly they would allow to be in the game, and that ended up sort of limiting what gameplay, what exact characters were going to be in the game, and it ended up making that just a pretty stale, boring, average game, because they needed to fit the gameplay elements into the exact lore. But even then, it was just so hard to do because of how long they had to wait to confirm things, and the fact that Disney, Marvel, whoever exactly was, whichever entity, probably both of them, were choosing, okay, who's going to make these decisions? Then they said, hey, we're going to give NetEase full creative freedom. I'm sure they were overseeing some of it, but allowing them to do that was a huge leap of faith, and a strange amount of faith to give to NetEase, who actually let down the Diablo franchise. So I wonder if NetEase felt they had something to prove. Maybe they just had a lot of passionate people who loved Marvel, and that's what I would say, because I can see that coming through in the game, really. I love how they shined a light onto lesser heroes like Jeff the Landshark, Namor, Magic, the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. I don't know, that name came out of my mouth so weirdly. Squirrel Girl, but yeah, just having those characters in there alone tells me we've got some nerds and they're willing to take a risk, because they could have phoned it in. Like some of the movies have done. They could have said, let's just have some popular heroes on the screen. They'll draw them all in. Let's just have every Avenger in here. And we'll have a few of the other random characters, like we'll have the Winter Soldier and Falcon. We'll have some other names that people probably know. But no, they had some interesting, varied, unique characters that they put in here. And I like that they took that risk, and it actually drew me in more. I don't know if it had that same effect on other people, but when I see Jeff, I want to see what's going on with that cute little guy. I want to see how this little shark is a healer in this game. So I love what they did there with that entire aspect. It's just a fun game. That's the bottom line. Marvel as a company has been vilified by many different parties. As Marvel as an entity, I should say, as a franchise, specifically in the Marvel cinematic area, I should be clear. The movies have come under fire for being woke. You know, go woke, go broke. Or an actual legitimate reason, in my opinion, for their drop-off is superhero fatigue. Bad CGI driven by bad crunch time style work environments that don't lead to actual good products, and boring writing on top of it. People can sense that when they're watching the movies. And because of all that, I had no desire to play this at first. I had that superhero fatigue, and yes, it applied to the games as well. It applied to anything that they were in. But I'd seen a couple of people play it that I watch, and friends, and it looked fun, so it got me in. I love a good destructible environment too, I have to talk about that. The likes of Battlefield and the finals, and this one has it to some degree, where it even affects the map. And they can make the map totally different, especially in the Black Panther map. I think it's the final stage if you go through into the third sequence. The entire ceiling of one part of the map can fall down, and it totally blocks off one access point. And if you knock down a column, it allows access to the topmost platform. And multiple maps just have little bridges you can destroy, or walls you can bust through. And I love that. That's great stuff, and it makes for dynamic gameplay, so you're never playing the same thing twice. That's what made the Battlefield map so cool. Bad Company 2. You destroy a house, that house is gone. You're not playing on that for the rest of the map. So I just love stuff like that. I love dynamic gameplay in multiplayer games. That's just the best. And it's awesome that it's free. They could have pulled a Concord and dropped the ball and charged for something that was actually a worse product than Overwatch, which was also free. But no, they made the right call. They made this free too. They made it third player, so it's just different enough, and it's definitely possible that they'll add on some crazy monetization schemes, but the pass, I would say, is fairly inexpensive, $10. For what you get, it's fairly inexpensive. There's some good stuff on there, and you still get some in-game currency. The skins are pretty darn expensive in the store. Those are around $10 for just one skin, most of them. And I have to admit, though, they are cool, and they didn't just phone it in with most of them either. For the skins, you're looking at around that $10, but it is the skin that you're going to be buying. Almost all of them that I've seen so far generally are cool, and they're crafted with some sort of care. I mean, particularly I think about the Groot skin that's in there, where he has this cool beard and he's like a Christmas tree. He's got these ornaments, they've got Rocket Raccoon on them, and he's got a stocking with Star-Lord in his back. And it's just awesome. The Venom ice skin is very cool. That one's not so much complicated, but it's still cool. They're all just cool and interesting. But I don't know. It's not too egregious yet. It might get there. Overwatch shot itself in the foot and the leg and more, so I wouldn't be surprised if this game pulls the same thing, but for now, NetEase is surprising me. It's surprising a lot of us. I've just been having a blast, and I had quite a time playing Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 as well. So I knew that this potential was in me. I love this type of game, this hero shooter, and I'd been wanting another fun experience. At the time, Overwatch had me wrapped around its fingers, so I'd play it every night, and I was so invested in the new seasons and how the new hero was going to play and the counters and so forth. But now Marvel Rivals has me just as interested. And in terms of ranking it on the old Tiger Time meter 3000, ohmmeter, we're going to rank it an 88% for what it is and what it's trying to do. I think it's a blast, and I don't have much to complain about. I still think the cosmetics could be a little more accessible financially. Those skins are pricey, and the map diversity could be better, but it's free, so there's not much to complain about. And what they do give you to start is just fine. It's not pay to win. They're not pulling a Diablo Immortal right now. I don't know if they've just gotten wiser and they're going to backload that stuff after they get people interested, rather than the mistake they made with Diablo Immortal. So there's a chance, we need to keep wary, because there's a chance they start sneaking more and more of it in, as Blizzard did. But for now, it's just a good game, and you can play it for free, and the connection's great. You know what? I'll boot it up to a 91% on the Tigerometer 3 meter thousander. If I have this little to complain about, how could I put it below 90%? So we'll go 91 for this one. I know this wasn't actually a ranking video, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about it because I've been having fun with it. The first season has just come out, so I'm sure it's on the minds of people, and they're releasing 2 new characters, 3 more new maps. That's the one thing I could complain about, that map diversity like I was saying, but I mean, that's not the biggest issue. And the map design is actually good, so it's just having a little more of them could be nice, which are going to come with time. So cool. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.